This is week 152 of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. I'm Anna Belokur, reporting to you from Kyiv, and I'll be taking you through the top stories from Ukraine this week. This week has given us final, hard evidence of North Korea's involvement in Russia's war, as it was reported on January 11th that Ukrainian special forces and airborne forces captured 2 North Korean prisoners of war in Russia's Kursk Oblast. Up until this point, both Moscow and Pyongyang have refused to officially acknowledge the deployment of North Korean troops alongside Russia, despite reports starting a few months ago of them being spotted among the Russian military. Ukrainian and Western sources estimate that between 10 and 12,000 North Korean soldiers have been deployed to Russia so far, and more might follow as Moscow attempts to balance out its huge casualty rates, while Pyongyang seeks combat experience for its troops. Taking North Korean POWs alive has proved challenging for Ukraine. The movements and locations of these troops are tightly guarded by Russia, for obvious reasons, to the point where even photographic evidence of their existence has been scant. Adding to the difficulty in finding them is the fact that both South Korean and US officials have claimed that North Korean troops are instructed to commit suicide rather than be taken captive by Ukraine, and many are apparently doing so out of fear of retaliation against their families if they become POWs. There have even been unconfirmed images circulating of Korean language instructions given to troops, detailing how to place a grenade under one's body armor to effectively kill oneself. And it was reported that dead North Korean soldiers have been found with journal entries expressing willingness to die rather than be taken prisoner. An injured North Korean soldier was captured by Ukrainian forces on December 26th, but died shortly afterwards before he could be questioned. The 2 captured this week are the first to survive long enough to be stabilized and brought to Kyiv. The Kyiv Independent interviewed the soldiers of the Special Operations Forces who captured one of the POWs, and their description of the event painted a slightly different picture than the one we've gotten so far. For months, there have been reports that North Korean soldiers are ill-prepared for war, bringing down the efficiency of the Russian army. Just this week, South Korean intelligence said that North Korea's heavy casualty rates are due to a lack of understanding of modern warfare, including useless attempts to shoot down long-range drones. The soldiers we interviewed, however, had a more nuanced take. They said that the North Koreans are far better prepared physically and mentally than their Russian counterparts. One also did, however, echo the widely reported fact that North Korea hasn't prepared its troops for the realities of drone-heavy warfare, and that they're adapting to a battlefield far different from the one they trained for, leading to inevitable issues in executing certain maneuvers. Ukrainian and foreign sources estimate that several hundred North Korean soldiers have been killed already, and nearly 3,000 more wounded since the troops entered combat this fall. When it came to the actual capture of the POW, the Special Operations Forces confirmed that the injured soldier had been holding a weapon and a grenade that were extremely difficult to take from him. They said he seemed calm and frightened upon capture, and that Russia began firing hard at them when they realized there was a risk of a North Korean soldier being taken alive. The 2 POWs are in Kyiv now, where they've been recovering from injuries and undergoing questioning via translators in cooperation with South Korean intelligence. So far, their answers have been interesting, but not wholly shocking. Both are really young men, career soldiers from specially trained units who had already spent some years in the North Korean military prior to deployment. One says they were sent to Russia on the pretext of training, not war. Something we've heard before. We made a quick explainer on all the info that came out of those initial interviews, including one POW's surprising announcement that he wants to stay in Ukraine. That'll be linked in the description below. The Kyiv Independent's War Crimes Unit will premiere its new investigative documentary, Curated Theft, on Thursday, January 23rd. The film investigates the theft of art from 2 museums in Kherson during the 2022 Russian occupation, and the difficulties in locating the art now and seeking justice against those who orchestrated the crime. The documentary will premiere in Kyiv, as well as here on our YouTube channel on Thursday. Subscribe to be notified when it's out. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer visited Kyiv on Thursday, signing a 100-year partnership agreement between the UK and Ukraine and announcing $3.6 billion in military support. President Volodymyr Zelensky called the agreement unprecedented in Ukraine's history and likened it to the security agreement between the US and Israel. The deal, which can be read on the presidential office's website, delineates cooperation in the spheres of military, maritime security, defense industry, protection of critical infrastructure, and cybersecurity. It also considers Russia and its proxies to be participants in dangerous organized crime and affirmed a commitment to restoring Ukraine's complete territorial integrity. Starmer and Zelensky also discussed the prospect of sending British peacekeepers to Ukraine after a potential ceasefire, and Starmer reiterated that the UK will play a full part in peacekeeping efforts. All in all, this agreement is an important act of solidarity, but unlikely to change much in a practical sense in the immediate future. The visit came just days before America welcomes a new, or not so new, president, one who has made controversial claims about withdrawing the US from NATO and ending aid to Ukraine. And Starmer's presence in Kyiv this week was a clear show of allyship as Ukraine faces a very uncertain period. And the day didn't go totally smoothly. Around midday on Thursday, there was a series of explosions in downtown Kyiv, and it was revealed that a Russian drone had flown over the presidential residence during Starmer and Zelensky's meeting. This isn't the first time Putin has antagonized visiting leaders in Kyiv. The air raid siren went off constantly when even his closest European ally Viktor Orban was here. But actually launching things is a step farther than things usually go, and it's alarming that Russia felt comfortable doing that. As I said a few weeks ago, more and more drones have been making it into central Kyiv in recent months, whether due to new Russian tactics to overwhelm detection systems, or shortages of personnel to man Ukraine's air defense, or some combination of the two. Although the attack during Starmer's visit was shocking, it also gave him a taste of what daily life sounds like for Ukrainians. When asked about the drone attack, Zelensky just said that Ukraine will send greetings back to Russia in return. At the Kyiv Independent, reader contributions are our main source of revenue. Shows like Ukraine This Week are only made possible by viewers like you. If you'd like to get more involved in the Kyiv Independent community, we have several membership tiers that give you access to our Discord community, exclusive content, discounts on our merch, Q&As with our staff, moderated Ukrainian language lessons, and more. We have an active group of readers who have built a relationship with our newsroom and with each other, and we'd love to have you along. There will be a link to our membership page in the description below. I'd also like to thank everyone who donates directly via YouTube. Your support is greatly appreciated. Tomorrow, Donald Trump will step into office for a second presidential term. The overwhelming reaction to this news here in Ukraine is ending Russia's war immediately was one of the cornerstone promises of Trump's campaign, but one day out from him assuming office, it's clear that peace talks aren't going to commence this week or next week. Several of Trump's advisors have said that it'll take at least several months to come to an agreement, which has given Ukrainians hope that Trump won't cut the first deal Putin offers him and might even hold out for a favorable position for Ukraine. Incoming Ukraine peace envoy Keith Kellogg said that in spite of Trump's brash declarations that he'd end the war instantly, with many speculating that he could only be referring to a deal in which Ukraine would be forced to cede large parts of its territory, Trump is actually interested in saving Ukraine and its sovereignty in a way that is equitable and fair. Trump's team is also reportedly considering revising sanctions on Russian natural resource exports, either by easing them to incentivize Russia to stop the war, or increasing them to apply pressure. Still, Kellogg's more diplomatic take isn't being uniformly echoed across the incoming administration. Incoming Secretary of State Marco Rubio said on Wednesday that both Ukraine and Russia need to be realistic, suggesting that it would be reasonable for Russia to halt its advance if Ukraine lets go of the territories currently under Russian occupation. Russia occupies about 20% of Ukraine's territory, and to be clear, it is still grinding westward at record speed, giving it almost no motivation to stop with what it has. Ceding large swaths of Ukrainian land will also likely not do much to slow Russia down. Also on Wednesday, incoming Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth was asked if he had purposely avoided mentioning Ukraine in his opening remarks at a confirmation hearing as a sign that the administration plans to abandon the country. Hegseth replied that, "We know who the aggressor is, we know who the good guy is." He then added, "But that war needs to come to an end." Again, there's not much more we can do than shrug and guess at how this incoming administration plans to go about making that happen. Ukrainians themselves are split on whether or not Trump taking office will make peace more or less likely. 39% say that peace is more likely, 35% say that peace is less likely, and 26% say that Trump will make no difference. There's definitely hope that decisive action of any kind will be better than Biden's slow, hesitant support, which has drip-fed Ukraine just enough aid to survive the last 3 years. But at the end of the day, we're talking about Trump. No one knows what he's going to say tomorrow, or next week, or in his impending meeting with the Russian dictator, and no one knows exactly what role he's going to play in this war, as the soon-to-be leader of Ukraine's largest ally. As he takes office tomorrow, I sincerely hope that Trump proves to be a competent leader who does indeed end this war on a favorable, sustainably secure note for Ukraine. And as Ukraine has said since the prospect of a second Trump term became likely, we will deal with whoever is president and try to maintain the best possible relationship for the best possible outcomes. There's nothing else to do at this point. That's all for this week. We'll be back next Sunday with more news from Ukraine. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to this channel. Your support is what allows us to bring you independent, unbiased news about Russia's invasion, which we are committed to doing no matter how much uncertainty the world faces. If you'd like to become a member of the Kyiv Independent community, please visit the link in the description below. I'll see you next week.